Hey everyone, the other week I made a video all about Gutshot Games' crazy Kickstarter campaign for a set of 3D printable modular files that are going to allow you to make your own gaming tabletop system here that I'm super excited to receive the final versions of the files so that I can get this thing off and fully printed. But we're not really here to talk about that campaign, but we are going to talk about that campaign, but what we really are going to be focusing on is a set of comments that I saw popping up in my video, as well as that I've seen online, which is why even bother with a Kickstarter campaign for a set of 3D files versus just releasing them online or putting them behind a Patreon or putting them on my mini factory for sale. And over the past few years, I've backed, I think, over 6 or 7 different Kickstarter campaigns that include different 3D printable files as part of them. And for the most part, those seem to be some of the safest Kickstarter campaigns to back because you're just receiving a digital item at the end of the campaign or shortly after the campaign once all the files are finished being developed. And that's one of the core aspects of why are they doing this within a Kickstarter campaign. And it's because for the most part, for most of these campaigns, not all of the files are fully developed yet. So you might have a core set of files that they've designed and printed off and are showing off as part of the Kickstarter campaign, but the core set isn't even fully developed yet. So once that campaign ends, that's when they're fully cranking out the rest of those models and designing those to fully release, which is typically, I've seen, I think a few months, like 2 months after the campaign ends is typically around the longest that I've waited to receive some of those files. And the tabletop gaming community seems to be one of the absolute most popular sections of Kickstarter for 3D printable files. If you just do a search right now on Kickstarter, you'll see that there is a number of different active campaigns for 3D printable figurines and tabletop items for you to run off and print once the campaign ends to start including in some of your upcoming games. But I have to think a large portion of it has to be just the overall reach and marketability within Kickstarter versus getting lost in the endless abyss of something like My Mini Factory or someone never even hearing of your Patreon if you go to set that up. Versus directly on Kickstarter, it's a much larger platform that folks are already familiar with going on and backing campaigns to find some of these projects and files. Something else that you might end up seeing as well over on Kickstarter versus other platforms is creators making supplemental items and including 3D printable files with whatever it is that you're purchasing. Like last year, I backed Miniac's paintbrush set that also includes the option for 3D printable files or to purchase an actual physical statue, a print of one of those actual miniatures that are part of that campaign. And again, I think the big idea behind this is it's really judging how large of an audience is out there interested in whatever it is that you're designing and releasing as part of the Kickstarter campaign versus fully running off and spending all of the time to develop, let's say, 32 miniature files and then trying to release those when you might only develop 6 of them up front initially there and then say there's going to be another 15 as part of the core campaign and then through tiers add on additional options for more miniatures within that particular campaign. This again, just is all theoretical and part of things that I have seen as part of some past campaigns that I've backed. Now with Gutshot Games and this tabletop set of files here, I actually reached out to them and asked for their input as to why they went Kickstarter versus just releasing the files online. And one of their, core answers is yes, it's the marketability of Kickstarter and reaching the largest audience possible with this set of files for their campaign. Plus, again, it goes right back to that idea of they had this core idea for the tabletop, but they didn't have like all of the files fully developed and built out yet as part of the campaign. It seems like they only had a core set of the files built for the videos and then as part of the campaign to see if it would actually take off before they spend the time and effort developing the others. The other really cool thing that I thought that they included in their response back to me was as part of their tiers, they directly listened to the feedback from their backers as to what additional things should they start including with their campaign. So if it reached a next milestone, they're going to include the cyber files as part of this. So it would be a little bit more of a sci-fi aspect to it for the tabletops, which I thought was a really cool way to add value to this as their campaign was continuing to grow and showing more interest from people backing it. And another thing that they mentioned is that the files that they've shown off, and even the ones that I've received that I went off and printed off, these are not the final versions of the files. They've further gone back and have spent more time refining these in changing the final designs so that they're going to print better, be more functional, and just have a better overall experience for you when you go to actually download these. And this is the same thing that I've seen with other campaigns, where initially it might have just been a set of, let's say, miniatures, and then as the campaign was wrapping up, they had to work on then pre-supporting those or cutting them up into other options or making larger versions available of those files. It's not just a matter of making the files and putting them out there. Now it's sort of, people are expecting a little bit more effort out of you when you're putting out these sort of campaigns and these files. Now, there are definitely instances of Kickstarter campaigns that I've seen that I don't really think it's appropriate for them to be full-on Kickstarter campaigns, that it does feel like a little bit of a cash grab, but I honestly think it's really just coming down to the overall reach and visibility for some of these people that are making digital files to be able to get them out to the widest, largest set of audience members that are out there via Kickstarter. Again, if you go through My Mini Factory or Cults 3D, there might not be people outside of the 3D printing communities that are even aware of those things. Or like Gutshot Games mentioned in their email that there's something like 10% or more of their backers don't even have 3D printers, but they're looking to have someone else print them for them. So I don't necessarily think some of those people that have backed the campaign would have even found out about it if it wasn't on Kickstarter or hearing it on some other message board or forum or whatever it is that you're finding some of these things that people are posting about. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this approach of using Kickstarter to release a set of 3D printable files versus just putting them up online on their own website or on a digital storefront like My Mini Factory or Cults 3D. I also want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters for your continued support of me making videos here on the channel. I have a whole bunch of different Resin 3D printer settings that you can find over in my Patreon, and I also have some different FDM 3D printer profiles available over in my Patreon. And I don't really think this is ever going to be going away, and I've already started to fully embrace it, it seems, with the number of campaigns that I've backed. And in fact, I just backed another campaign for a set of miniatures today. I know, it's horrible, but I love 3D printing these things. And I have a big, huge print running behind me that's a multi-day print that I'm going to be showing off in a video later next week. But hey, thanks so much for watching all. Hopefully you enjoyed this sort of rambling talk about me and my thoughts on Kickstarter and why some of these companies might be going with this approach. Hey, I'll see you next time.